Hi everyone, it's Ash from FPLHINTS, here with what I think is the best free hit team ahead of double game week 33. As always, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. Two important caveats. I still have my free hit at this moment in time, but I won't use it in double game week 33 because I've also got the bench boost at hand as well. And most likely, if I was to use a chip, it would be the bench boost because I wildcarded a couple of game weeks ago and I'm more or less set for this double game week. The other caveat is that, again, everyone's team value is different. And whilst I can construct this draft within budget, you may not be able to, depending on your team value. So just a quick check in with the fixtures first of all, and then we'll go straight into constructing this so-called best draft. So Brentford against Brighton first of all. So this isn't a double game week fixture. Both are mid-table teams. Probably are they? Yeah, outside of like European reach, I wouldn't really consider them in this double game week for sure. And then Crystal Palace against Bournemouth. That's the first. Well, it's the second double game week back-to-back fixture for Crystal Palace, and they had it in 32, but didn't really go well for them. And coming on to Everton and Man City. So in the case of Man City, this will be their first double. Again, with Man City, the league title race went a long time ago. Champions League is still up for grabs with the fifth spot, so all to play for there. And then coming to West Ham and Southampton, not a double game week, but at the same time, it's not really a relegation battle either. I think mathematically, West Ham aren't safe, as you can see on screen here, but with 14-point buffer and 6 games to go, they're home and dry. So whilst it's not all to play for, but yeah, it's like in many ways Southampton on the beach, but at the same time they don't want to get the worst ever FPL, Premier League points score in history either. And then Villa against Newcastle. Newcastle, of course, had the double last week. Villa have it now. Villa, of course, are reeling off the back of that loss on aggregate in the Champions League. And with Newcastle, big must-win match. They're not technically assured a Champions League spot yet. I think depends what kind of Villa we see. I think a European spot is still up for grabs for them. So yeah, it's always tricky with teams that lose and crash out of European competition, and then they've got the league fixture on the Saturday. Fulham against Chelsea, neither have a double in this instance. Ipswich against Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal have progressed to the semi-finals of the Champions League for the first time in a long time, and no doubt we'll see a lot of managed minutes and questions on whether Saka starts either of those matches, which I'll address shortly. United against Wolves. Again, United had that drama in Europe as well, but with not for them, their eggs are in that Europa League basket, and I don't not that they've got the eye off on the league, but I think that will be their sole focus. Wolves are more or less in a similar situation to West Ham, as we can see on points, more or less safe, but not mathematically. And then onto the other fixture, Leicester against Liverpool, with Leicester in particular. I think mathematically they aren't relegated, but with Liverpool, I think if they win and Arsenal don't, then they've wrapped up the title. So no doubt they'd want not a grandstand finish, but want to wrap things up fairly soon. And then Spurs against Forest in the remaining single game week fixture. Spurs, who have progressed in the Europa League, and Forest, as we can show on screen here, are still competing for that Champions League spot. I think with Chelsea, they're in the Conference League. If they win that, they get a Europa League spot. So they're still challenging for that fifth Champions League spot, which is available this season after the way in which English teams have done in Europe. So no doubt they'll be up for it. And with Spurs way down it's not really the league in itself is probably a distraction for them, if anything, with Europe being their sole focus in order to secure that Champions League spot. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you could have a Spurs United final still, so that would be quite interesting. And then the actual doubles with City playing Villa. Again, you mentioned the Champions League angle for Man City with Aston Villa. Just want to show it up on screen again. They are mathematically in the Champions League race here, so you'd expect them to really put up a fight against both Newcastle United and Man City. And then lastly, Arsenal against Crystal Palace. Not sure what Palace we're going to see turn up. It's always a disappointment having Palace players and then they perform when you don't have them and then they underperform when you do have them. With Arsenal, it's all about securing progression in the Champions League in the semi-finals and also making sure that they don't really take their eye off in the league as well. And just as a reminder, Newcastle 4 points behind them. So Arsenal could probably still lose a game, get a draw, and still be fine in the remaining fixtures. But no doubt they want to finish on a high in the league as well. Anyway, that's the context with the fixtures. Let's get cracking with the free hit now. So I'm going to just make it easy. I'll restore some players that I will have. So David Raya I already have. I think he makes perfect sense as the starting goalkeeper in this double game week if you've got a free hit. The other player that I'm going to restore is Mohamed Salah. Of course, he doesn't have a double game week, but we're crazy not to start him against Leicester. Of course, some may even captain him, but in my case, I won't captain him, but he will definitely be in my starting 11. Isak is the other player who doesn't have a double, but I think it just makes sense to have him with the way in which he's been playing and his high ownership and his form, albeit his form was slightly mixed until he scored in that 5-0 win against Palace. But I think, he's too good of a miss. And in terms of the actual forwards that are available from the double game weeks, there aren't that many to really, hit home about. So in he comes. The other player that I'm going to restore is Marmoush. So I think he is captaincy material with Everton away, Villa at home, and City would absolutely need to win both matches to ensure that they can secure Champions League football next season. Of course, they crashed out quite early on. Ismail Assar, going to restore him as well. Got the assist in the first match, but disappointment otherwise. So I think he is a no-nonsense pick for me. And I have got Rodgers. I'm not going to restore him temporarily. I'm not going to have him. I just feel that that's two really hard double game week fixtures. And normally you'd want to back a team if they've got one reasonable one. And then if there's one difficult one, so be it. But Newcastle at home, after they've crashed out the Champions League, then Man City away, I can't justify a spot for him. So I won't be picking him in this hypothetical free hit draft. So what I will do is I'm going to get another Palace attacker. My concern is that Mateta, his minutes have been heavily managed, so been just subbed off a fair few times. I can't see him getting 180 minutes in these fixtures. His form hasn't been that great, so I will get Eze as my second attacking Palace player. I'll restore Munoz as well. Massive disappointment with a -1, but we'll give him another chance in this free hit draft. So far I've got the triple up with Crystal Palace. I'm also going to get a triple up of Arsenal as well. So Saka, again, big question marks on whether he will start against Ipswich. I'm fairly confident he will start at least one of those games. Not sure which one it will be. Could even start both and get managed minutes, but for the sake of this free hit draft, I think it makes sense. Not a captaincy option for sure because of the minutes issue, but you've got to get him in. If you've got a free hit available and you're going to use it, you've got to get him in. So That's 4 midfielders. I'm now going to complete it with Man City midfielder De Bruyne. Again, perfect free hit player. We know his minutes, of course, were curtailed by injury, but even without injury, his minutes haven't been that great this season. I think makes perfect sense on free hit. Foden could have been an option as well, but he's been hit and miss of late. So I think that midfield, De Bruyne, Sarr, Saka, Mohamed Salah, Eze, makes perfect sense. And you're probably thinking, hold on, you've also got Isak and Marmoush. How are you going to basically crunch numbers, 6 more players with 28.7? So I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Coming on to the goalkeeper, second one. Going to keep it nice and simple, get a cheap one, Areola, who, just to confirm, he has been starting matches, albeit he had that spell where he wasn't. So no nonsense. Second goalkeeper on the free hit. Now, onto the defenders. I will get an Arsenal defender, and I'll take a bit of a risk here because I want to unlock some funds. I won't get Saliba. Of course, Gabriel's injured. Got Timber as well, but I want to go super cheap on the Arsenal defender front. So just going to get this up here. Of course, the Gabriel injury changed things, and it's going to be Kivior, who has started the last 3 games in the Premier League, 4.8 million. Yeah, if he doesn't start for some random reason, it is what it is. But for the sake of a free hit, makes sense. So David Raya, Kivior, and Saka complete the Arsenal triple up, and that's 19.7 with 4 more spots to fill. So the other defender that I'm going to get, in fact, I'll restore him because I've already have him. I think Gvardiol, no nonsense. Gvardiol, De Bruyne, and Marmoush. It's the no-look Man City lineup there here for this free hit. So that's 13.6 million with 3 spots to fill. And you're probably thinking, what is he going to do? I'm not going to get a 4.5 forward, but I am going to use a couple of cheat codes here because it's a free hit. So one player who actually had in my own team at the start of the season was Ben Johnson, finally getting game time at last. And of course, against Chelsea, got 12-point haul. Just a shame you couldn't do that when I had him. So in he comes as one of my bench fodder players for this double game week 33 free hit. And the other one I'm going to pick almost certainly will be my sub 3 and isn't starting at all since the start of the season, Michael Keane. So in he comes, also 3.8 million. So that's one of the benefits of a free hit at this time of the season. You've got players who are sub 4 million, and in this case, got 2 at 3.8 million. So that's £6 million now for the starting, for a final forward berth. So, of course, I'll be starting Gvardiol, I'll be starting Kivior and Munoz, and then starting all of those 5 midfielders. I'll start Marmoush and I'll start Isak as well. So this forward will be a sub 1, and you could pretty much pick anyone, but arguably I'd want to pick someone who's relatively in form. And of course, can't get Watkins, but he's been a bit of a minutes issue of late anyways. That's why I wasn't going to make the team work with him. So yeah, triple Arsenal, triple Palace, triple City. No Aston Villa cover. Can't really justify it, unfortunately. I might actually try and make one of these fodder players an option, but it's really João Pedro, who has been, wasn't some great form a few weeks back, and then got a brace against Leicester. I think perfect sub 1 player on a free hit against Brentford. So just want to come on to Aston Villa. So yeah, no Aston Villa starting players for sure, but just seeing if there's any defender from Aston Villa I could potentially start. But of course, my budget is at 4.2 million. So it's not, it's not the be all or end all if I can't get a starting Aston Villa defender. I mean, look at Konsa 4.4, Luka Dean 4.5, Cash 4.4, got Matson, Pau Torres isn't starting, got Disasi as well. Could be an option, but he's not. He's been a bit hit and miss. But I think for the sake of just maxing out the budget, let's just put Disasi in. But of course, Disasi will just be like a sub 2, if anything. Actually, let me just do one quick change. I'll take Keane out. Ben Johnson has been starting, so from the defenders, just gonna get this up. There he is. So get Ben Johnson back in the team. Not that I'll be starting him. So just to show you, budget has been maxed out. And what have we got? So we've got David Raya as a starting goalkeeper, with Kivior, Munoz, and Gvardiol as a starting defenders. Ben Johnson will be the sub 2 or sub 3, and Disasi, just, I'll just decide what would be best, but I will definitely not be starting Disasi and Johnson for sure. All of those midfielders you can see on screen start: De Bruyne, Sarr, Saka, Salah, Eze, no nonsense picks on a free hit, and then Isak and Marmoush as my starting forwards, and then João Pedro as my sub 1. So there you have it. That is what I think is the best free hit team for Double Game Week 33. Please let me know in the comments below what you think. Have I got the balance right? Have I got the balance wrong? Is there a bit of a risk in not having a Aston Villa player in this free hit draft? In my team, still have Rodgers, so I won't be activating the free hit from my side, but I have one. But I'd argue that actually, if I didn't have Rodgers and I was using a free hit, that De Bruyne, Sarr, Saka, Salah, and Eze make perfect sense. If Watkins had been starting, had been fully fit, I could make a case that Isak out, Watkins in, for sure. I'd definitely consider that. That's the only real change I could potentially do if I had a free hit. But in my case, I think, well, not in just my case, I just think he makes sense having him with Newcastle still in the hunt for a Champions League spot, and Mohamed Salah is Mohamed Salah. And there you have it. As always, if you're able to like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Take care and all the best.